Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the New York Charter School Association December statewide webinar. I'm Yomika Bennett, the Executive Director of the New York Charter Schools Association. I am joined today by Anna Hall, CEO, Northeast Charter Schools Network, Janet Klein, Associate in Education Research at NYSED, Lisa Long, Executive Director, Charter Schools Office at NYSED, who, if she's not on, she'll be on shortly, same with Anna, Catherine Connell Espinoza, Interim Executive Director of the SUNY Charter Schools Institute, and Corey Callahan, General Counsel and VP of Legal Policy at the New York City Charter School Center. Welcome, everyone. As always, we will start by sharing some updates, information, and upcoming events. And I'm happy to start out with an introduction. The association is thrilled to announce our new Senior Director of Communications, Amy McGeady, to the team. Ms. McGeady brings more than 20 years of experience working in the communications field in the K-12 and public school spaces particularly. We are delighted to have Amy on board to bring her skills to work on behalf of charter schools across New York State. Please join us in welcoming Amy. Speaking of communications, we know that winter break and the end of the year will soon be here. Please do share school celebrations and joyful moments by tagging us on social media or emailing your pictures to comms@nycharters.net. Last week, school leaders should have received an email from our CEO, Anna Hall, requesting your participation in a survey on charter's potential interest in expansion. The facility surveys, and if you haven't, if you haven't already, please complete the survey. We're dropping a link in the chat. The survey was put together by a coalition of philanthropic investors, authorizers, and support organizations to better understand schools' growth plans and facility needs. Your responses will help inform significant support efforts and enable resources to be made available that could directly benefit your students and the charter community as a whole. Shouldn't take more than 20 minutes to complete, and all responses are confidential. Please complete the survey by Friday, December 16th, as your responses, again, will play an essential role in supporting our charter school ecosystem for years to go. Please note that if you started the survey but didn't complete it, you can log in again to complete it. Your responses aren't saved until the entire survey is submitted, so it should be done in one sitting. Due to rising levels of COVID-19, influenza, and RSV, the New York City Department of Health and Mental Health has issued an indoor masking recommendation, which includes schools and daycare centers. Accordingly, the department is encouraging students and staff in schools in New York City to wear masks during the winter months, as long as case rates remain elevated. A link to the Department of Health and Mental Health advisory on indoor masking is being dropped in the chat. The New York State Parent Council's meeting will be held tomorrow, Wednesday, December 14th at 6 p.m. Please share the link we're dropping in the chat with your families and parent liaisons. The Parent Council is still looking for an upstate family member to serve as vice chairperson on the Parent Council board. The board will help develop the council's strategy and activities for this year. Spanish translation will be provided for Parent Council meetings. It's that time again. We've been preparing for the upcoming legislative session. Our state legislators will be heading to Albany in January to work on the budget for the great state of New York and other important legislation that will impact funding, facilities, and other policies that affect charter schools and families. Legislators need and want to meet with the charter school community, your parents, staff, alumni, board leaders, et cetera, to hear what we need for our schools and our communities. Heading to Albany is one of the best ways to do this, and that is why we are partnering with our charter school advocacy organization for the following events. On Tuesday, January 24th, mark your calendars, School Choice Week. During School Choice Week, I'll say that right in a minute. Parents will travel to Albany to advocate for school choice and spread the word. There will be one bus picking up from 2 locations in New York City and one van picking up in Buffalo and Rochester, as well as representation for schools in Albany. If you have families that may be interested to learn more and join us on January 14th, please complete the link that we are putting in the chat and share. In addition to School Choice Week on the 24th, there will be another advocacy day, and the New York City Charter School Center is leading the way for New York City Borough Delegation Days and bringing parents and other advocates to meet with elected officials. on Tuesday, January 4th. Tuesday, January 31st. Let me get that right. Tuesday, January 31st is the Bronx Delegation Day in Albany. You can visit the center site to sign up for the delegation day. Come on, come out. There will be more days throughout the rest of the first part of sessions from through March. The site again will drop that in the chat. Very good, thank you. Transportation and food will be provided for all of these trips. Stay tuned for dates for other regions within the state. Continuing with advocacy, the Association and Parent Council are launching a letter writing and social media campaigns this week in support of budget and legislative priorities for 2023. Stay tuned for calls to action from us. Please follow us on all the social media platforms, and please share with your community, parents, staff, board members, students, alumni. 2023 it looks like it will be a much better year for the charter community in terms of some wins in the legislature. We have some emerging and present, I'll say, charter champions out there in the legislature. We want to make sure that they have support. We want to make sure that those who are not on the right side of supporting charters get there. So we want to be able to spread the word, join our campaigns, look out for our calls to action. On school support programming, we'll continue our school support programs in December, on December 15th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Our final Critical Friends visit of the fall semester will be taking place. We're excited for this virtual visit with Amani Public Charter Schools in Mount Vernon. Spaces are still available as we dive deep into the problem of practice, which will look at efforts to improve math achievement. School and academic leaders are invited to attend this virtual visit. The form to sign up for this and future visits is being dropped in the chat. All of our regularly scheduled working groups will reconvene in January, so look out for those updates in the beginning of January when we will have signups for those. Of course, our working groups are deep dive into topics relevant to the stakeholder groups, the board meetings, the board members, data working groups, and operation groups. In January, the association will also be hosting a webinar on student and staff mental health therapy. We'll be sharing resources that schools can use to provide support to both the adults in your building as well as your student community. 2 charter schools will be sharing their experience using mental health teletherapy in an accessible and equitable way, and the impact it has had on the schools these past 2 years. You can sign up for this webinar by clicking on the registration link in the chat. That's it for the updates. I'll now turn it over to Catherine, Catherine, Laura, and Janet for any of the updates that they would like to share. Catherine, I see you're off mute, so we'll start with you.
All right, thank you so much, Yumika, I appreciate it. Yeah. I do have a couple of updates for SUNY authorized charter schools in regards to submission requirements. Want to note that the 23-24 student applications will be due via Epicenter on January 2, 2023. They can certainly be submitted earlier, so when they are ready, please go ahead and do that. And it is important to note that they do need to be submitted for the Institute's review and approval before they are distributed and posted online by your school. So please be sure to get those in as soon as possible. Additionally, for new charters opening in 23-24, the student recruitment and marketing efforts summary is due to be submitted by January 16th. And Mike will share links to those documents in the chat for folks. And last but not least, the Institute is excited to announce that our new white paper, which was developed by folks on our academic team, which highlights accelerated learning in practice and promising practices from the SUNY Charters 21-22 visit season, are now available on our website. So Mike will also share that link to the white paper. If anybody has any questions about that, please do not hesitate to reach out to the Institute. Thank you so much for having me, and that's all that I have today. Thanks, Yumika.
All right, great. Hi, Janet, how are you?
Very well, thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I just have a couple of quick updates. Lisa wanted me to mention that there are 2 items that are going for public comment in the state register on December 28th. The first is a proposed regulation that would prohibit the use of Indigenous representation for school mascots, name, symbol, or image by any New York State public school. This could possibly affect charter schools. So we want you to know that it will be out there from December 28th through February 27th for comments. The second one is the individual arts assessment pathway. This would be a new 4+1 pathway for graduation. That also is going to be out there from December 28th through February 27th. And the only other thing I have is, of course, a small reminder about some data reporting. Currently, your ESSA fiscal transparency report is due in the IDEX by December 30th. I do have a couple of handfuls of schools who missed the deadline for the BEDS IMF report that was due back on November 20th. And there's also some other schools that I'm going to be reaching out to concerning the staff snapshot report that was supposed to have been submitted through SERS by November 20th. And that's about where we stand, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, great. Thank you, Janet. Hi, Corey. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
I'm filling in for Erin too. She could not make it. So basically our big announcement is we have our last DOH health call of the year this Friday. I'll put most folks have probably already registered for it because it is on it's just on a, every month registration. So you probably don't need to register, but we did end up moving the date to this Friday just to some DOH staffing concerns. So if you have questions, please follow the link and let us know, and we will see you all on Friday. If you have other questions for Erin and DOE, also please submit them because she'll be on Friday and can answer if folks have other questions. And that is all I have. Thanks, Yumika.
All right, great. Thank you. Thanks everyone for your updates. We'll turn it over now for any questions from anyone in attendance. Please feel free to add your questions to the chat or come off mute and ask your questions. We'll give a second for that. Okay, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to our focus presentations, focus topic presentations. For our presentation today, we want to share with you all resources that are now available to all charter schools throughout the New York State Library. Joining us today to walk through these resources on the New York State Library's digital platform, Novel, are representatives from Gale. We have with us education consultant and former charter and curriculum strategist Meg, classroom differentiation, translation tools for multilingual learners, SEL and DEI content, and are easy to integrate with Google Classroom and many other learning management systems. I'll turn things over to Megan now to walk us through the New York State Library platform. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you so much. Yes, I'm Meg Moulton. I am one of the Gale education consultants in New York, and I'm joined by a few people on my team, which we'll introduce towards the end. And I am also a former New York City charter school teacher, proudly serving Uncommon Kings Elementary in Brooklyn for several years. This will probably be your first look at Gale and the resources available to all schools throughout the New York State, through the New York State Library. And the goal is for you to get excited about what's available and want to learn more, and then connect with us to dive a little bit deeper. When I first came to Gale about a year and a half ago, I was blown away by what's available to all schools. And I was also blown away that I didn't know it existed. So our resources are being used by virtually all public and private schools in the state. And it's been very important to me on a personal level to ensure equity of access to all New York students. So just sit back and take it in, and then please connect with us so that we can make sure that your schools and networks have access and have information on how to use the resources. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to our trainer, Stacy Niblo, and she's going to explain what's available and how to access it and some of the tools and features.
Excellent. Thanks, Meg. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Stacy Niblo, coming to you from Buffalo, New York. Glad to be with you all virtually this afternoon to take a look at these free resources that come to every library in the state through the program called Novel New York. So this has been in place for years and years. Gail has been a part of it for a long time, and I have been a part of it for a long time. I am your trainer for New York State, so I often provide sessions that are available statewide and to individual schools and libraries across the state. So I'm always thrilled to share this information. As a New Yorker myself, I'm really proud that our state library puts this through, kind of using our tax dollars in a way that benefits our students. So we want to talk about these resources. We're going to share how to access them and let you know what to expect. I've shared a handout in the chat that basically shows you where you can sign up your own individual school to get your own access to these resources. I'm going to use the general site that's available to anyone in the state. I'll talk about it a little more when we get out there. But it's a real benefit for you to register with Novel New York and have your own links that you can then push out to teachers and students. And track your usage. You can see, how the resources are being used, what's being searched. You get a lot of good data when you have that kind of school specific access level. So we're going to, when we wrap up, we're going to share lots of great support information, and we're going to let you know who you can talk to at Gale when you want to dig in more about your access and usage reports and things like that. So today we want to give you a good look at what you have and a few tips for putting it to work in the classroom and the library. And we're going to start with the resources that you will use most often for that support. The program Novel New York is really for every citizen of New York State. So the state library tries to pick a collection that serves both K-12 students, but then also students in college, but public libraries, health hospital libraries. It's a really varied collection. So of course, we're going to focus on the ones that you would use most often in a K-12 setting. And those resources come from our Gale in Context product family. And as you can see, the first two are named really for their audience. Gale in Context Elementary and Gale in Context Middle School are built for those reading levels. We're going to get into show you them in a few minutes, but you'll see they are really engaging look and feel. For our older students, we take advantage of probably our most popular database in K-12 schools, Gale in Context opposing viewpoints. As you can imagine from the name, this is where we take a look at hot button issues, but give students a safe place to research them. So the Gale in Context product family is really built around the idea of a little online library that students can go to. They find things they pull off the shelf in their school library. We built it around state standards, national standards, so it's got what you need in the classroom. And we built topic pages over the units that are typically getting covered in class. And these are always being updated, so you get new content feeding in all the time. We work with teachers, with librarians to give us advice on what should be in them, the types of tools you need. And speaking of tools, you'll find that for the resources, you've got a lot of different ways to work with the content. We're going to see some of that in action, but really these fit into your workflow really nicely and have a lot of tools that our students need. So these three databases, again, are aimed at our students. You can use them for classroom tools, but also for research purposes for, homework assignments and projects and the like. You also have access, though, to a periodical collection that is around professional development for people in education. So Educators Reference Complete, if anybody remembers using ERIC when they were in school, this is a similar idea. You've got a lot of great journals and sources here to keep up with what's happening in education and do your own research, try new things in the classroom, lots of great stuff there. So this screen is really the four I think you'll use most often. And our handout details these as well as some additional resources. So again, Novel New York is serving all of the libraries in New York State. So they also have a big periodical collection to speak to academic libraries, public libraries, And that's what these resources are about. Anytime you see Gale 1 file, that's our product family that's tied to periodicals. So these could be supplemental resources that you might use. The newspaper collection is great, starting maybe with middle school, working with high school students. You can get high school students comfortable with using academic journals and say academic 1 file. We've isolated the New York Times as a standalone collection as well. So you can kind of take advantage of a small resource to work with, because really the other 1 file databases have thousands and thousands of sources. So they can be a little overwhelming. That's what we love about the Gale and Context resources. It's really served up for students. So you also have access to a collection of Spanish language periodicals. Informe Academico has content that is originally written in Spanish or has been hand translated. And it does gear towards academic journals, but because of the newspaper content there, I often do recommend it for middle school and high school. It can be great for a Spanish language class, but of course, certainly for, where students where, Spanish is their first language and they're more comfortable. And then we have a business resource as well. This can be handy in business and economics classes for your high schoolers. Gale Business Insights looks at company and industry research. So kind of an interesting one for those high school business classes or clubs. If you have a Future Business Leaders of America or anything, can be a really engaging resource. So this list is in the handouts, and they're kind of grouped together the same way I have them on the slides. We're going to dive into those K-12 resources first, though. So let's go ahead and one more thing before we do. Wanted to speak to how we build these databases. We, of course, need to serve our end users in the best way possible. And doing that is accomplished by, again, as I mentioned, working with different state standards to have the content that you need, but also making sure that that content is balanced and accurate. We have content that undergoes a bias review. We have subject matter experts from various races and ethnicities to help advise the content and write the content. So the curation practices, and I can share this link in the chat, or maybe Meg, you could include that there if you want to dive a bit deeper into how this content gets built. But I just pulled a few bullet points here, and we're going to share the presentation with you after, so you'll have this as well. But these were, I thought, kind of the most important statements to pull, so with this content that you're working with has, of course, a lot of thought behind it. And of course, it's got a publisher behind it, so you can always reach out to us with questions about this. So let's go ahead and take a look, and then we're going to come back and just kind of quickly sum up some of the tools we used, and we'll, of course, be able to take questions as well. So, and Meg, could you share this link in the chat as well? This is the Novel New York portal or homepage. Anyone who is a citizen of New York State, or really actually anybody could go to the website, but when you visit novelnewyork.org, it is using a geo-authentication. So anyone who's in New York State can click and use these databases with no, trouble at all. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do that. We've created a special dedicated page for students and grouped the resources there by grade level. Gale is not the only vendor that provides resources on Novel New York. Britannica also offers content. So they, of course, don't like me to train on their resources. So I'm going to stick to our Gale content, but just so you know, there are additional resources. And we're going to jump right into Gale and Context Elementary. And you'll see right off the bat, the homepage is really engaging. It's colorful. It's built for that younger user. And of course, the content that lives within it is as well. So reading level wise, this is going to serve a K-5 audience. And you've got lots of different ways to come into the content. But the main thing I like to show when you're getting to know a resource is really the browse tool here from the homepage. This allows you to get a sense of what's here. And again, I mentioned, we pulling content, looking at different state standards and things like that. So you can kind of have an idea, but just the broad categories here on the homepage give us a way into the content. It's a great tool for discovery, piquing students' curiosity as well, or if they've got a choice about what they're working on. And as you can imagine, in this resource, we have a lot of animal research done, but I'm actually going to follow another path. I want to pop into health because, of course, with all of our kind of standard subject areas, we also have those areas that have moved into education around social and emotional learning. And we've got support for that kind of content here too. So you can see there are a few different things here in health: feelings and emotions, making decisions, getting along with others. And as you move through the browse tool, you keep connecting with these topic pages that we've built around avoiding conflict, celebrating differences, peer pressure. And as you select from here, I'm gonna go ahead and jump in. We'll grab avoiding conflict. You find a dedicated portal for all of our content. As I mentioned before, these resources are built like libraries, really. So as you scroll through, you find book content, you find magazines, multimedia, depends on the topic you're looking at, but it lets you explore the content that's here. And something we've done with it over the years is level the reference articles that we've written. Gail is a publisher, so you'll find a lot of our content here. And we've written an avoiding conflict article at a level 1, meaning grades K through 2, and a level 2 for grades 3 through 5. And you can find the appropriate one for the students you're working with. Right? Now, I've set some display settings a little differently than our articles normally show. It's set a cookie for me, so it remembered, which is handy if I'm a student on my own device, but let me show you how I've done that. The databases want to reach every user, so we offer a lot of text interaction tools you can take advantage of, and I'm going to go ahead and set us back to the default. So normally when you come into the article, it displays like this. But you've got a whole row of text interaction tools up here to the right. I can have the article read to me. I can change the font size. I can change the display options, which is what I had done before. I have a nephew who has a processing issue, and he reads text better on a green background. So I can set the background of the text to green. I can change the font. If I needed to open dyslexic font, I can enable that. I can change the spacing. And again, I'm in the elementary databases, but these are going to be tools you'll have across all of our resources. Okay. So the display option is really handy. And as you can see, it sticks. As I move between articles, let me switch over to the level 1. You'll see that follows me and stays in that reading or that display that I can take advantage of. Okay. We've also got an on-demand language translation. You can translate into about 40 different languages. So for those students who struggle with English, this can be really valuable. The listen tool can also be a great way to reach students where maybe English isn't their first language. If they're struggling, if they can hear it, they might comprehend more. But often with the translate tool, for about half of the languages in this list, you'll be able to listen to them in that language as well. And then the article info button just gives us a little more information about what we found. So as we're teaching students about citations and, considering where information comes from and all those details, the info button is going to provide that. Now, if this is something I want to share with my students and push out to them, there are a few different ways you can do it. And the most kind of universal one is the get link tool. Get link is going to give me a persistent URL or PURL that I can then embed in something like Seesaw, or if I've got a web page, it can even just say email it to a colleague, wherever it needs to go. It's just a URL, and it will drop my students, my colleague, whoever I've sent this to, right into this level 1 avoiding conflict article. So you can get them right where you want them and make it easy with just a single click. Instead of kind of the path that we took to get to it. So you can share content really easily from the resource, and we're gonna look at a few different ways to do that. Let me pause here and see if anything's come into the chat so far. In good shape. All right. I do want to show you our middle school and opposing viewpoints resource as well. So let me pop into those and just back to the Novel New York page. Now, you're not limited. Of course, you can put users in any resource you like. So if you've got a middle schooler you think would be more comfortable with text that's coming out of elementary, everybody has open access to all of these resources. Gale in Context Middle School jumps up in terms of reading level, of course, but also in the interface. We're aging up with our users. So it's lost that kind of younger kid look. And we still are going to be able to browse through content. And in this resource, you can actually look up content by curriculum standards and look using state and national standards. We, of course, though, still have a search, so we could dive right in with our topic. But I wanted to highlight again, I love the browse. I think the discovery here is really important. It also gives you, inspiration, right, for what you can find here, and let students kind of choose what they may be working on if they've, got a choice in a project or something like that. So just scrolling through the science section here, you can see we've got an update tag when content has been significantly updated. We've added new multimedia, we've added new reference content. Technically, the databases are updated daily. New periodicals feed in all the time. So we add that tag when it's something more than just, more newspaper articles. We also, again, are updating these topic pages. So we've added a topic page for fossil fuels. You can just, keep an eye out for those tags to see how they develop the new content. Okay. And always starting out with a good overview. So if you're getting introduced to the topic, this is similar to what you might find in a textbook, but of course the resource is going to keep ahead of your textbook. So we are able to update very quickly. Again, you can see we've got lots of multimedia within the resources. So reaching those students where maybe they comprehend a little bit more or enjoy, watching a video more than they do reading the text, you've got that content as well. Right. This database and elementary both, again, cover a wide variety of subject areas. So one of the things I always like to point out, you've got a lot of great primary sources, which, play a big role in our state standards for social studies. And you've got, of course, the Emancipation Proclamation, but you've also got neat things like diary entries, letters, and I'll share my favorite here. My friends at Gale are probably seen this a time or two from me, but we've got a letter exchange between Abraham Lincoln and an 11-year-old girl named Grace, who actually grew up in Chautauqua County. She encouraged him to grow a beard, and you've really got to read between the lines in these letters. That's what's great about the primary sources, is it encourages so much critical thinking. And you'll actually see in some articles, we give prompts for critical thinking as well. So students are really kind of doing a lot of learning on their own, just taking advantage of this content. So she encourages Lincoln to grow a beard because ladies like whiskers, but of course ladies couldn't vote. So they were teasing their husbands to vote for him. So really great piece of history here, but also, again, a great critical thinking prompt. We want to pop into opposing viewpoints as well. And I know we're keeping an eye on the clock here. So opposing viewpoints also hits a lot of different subject areas. And again, as the name implies, it's the things that we're, hearing on the news, these kind of hot button issues, the things we vote on and have discussions around. So this is great support, certainly for social studies classes, economics, but it also touches science classes. It touches lit classes. It really hits almost every subject area here. We've even had libraries or schools who have used this content as, makeup tools for missing phys ed classes and things like that, researching, school uniforms and things like that. So it really runs the gamut. And a lot of this content resonates with our students. If we pop into, say, something like business and economics, just a quick scroll here, you can see things like esports, fast fashion. I've got a nephew who's approaching college age, so college tuition has been a popular one. And what we do is provide an overview of this topic and then viewpoints around this topic. So different opinions, right? So this database kind of defines critical thinking. You've got to think about how you feel about these issues, build arguments. There's a lot of great support content here. These are viewpoints that we've gathered from people who know what they're talking about. So you'll see each one introduces with an article commentary and prompts with some critical thinking questions. This is, an article we've gotten permission to republish, but we introduce it with the students to kind of set the stage. So good stuff. Alrighty. So rather than kind of go through the tools, I'm actually going to pop back to the PowerPoint because we want to get you onto your next topic. So we talked a bit about the accessible learning. We saw some of these, but in action. So that'll be a good reminder for the handout later. But to integrate into your workflow in school, we've got a few different tools. GetLink we talked about, but this database also has a link directly to pop content into your Google Classroom stream. So you just follow through the wizard from the tool up there at the top of the page. You can also pull content out into your Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive and then take advantage of all the tools there, have a discussion really in a document from our databases. And you can, of course, pull content out. You can download PDFs, you can print content and then make it available, as needed. So these tools live in all of the resources, not just the ones we looked at. So lots of good stuff there. So with that, we already took a look. I'll say thank you for having me to introduce the resources. My contact info is here, but I'll let Meg go ahead and kind of wrap up our discussion. But hope these kind of piqued your interest, and again, take advantage of that handout to register for these databases for your school.
Thanks, Stacy. And we will be sending that handout along with this PowerPoint to Michael, who will post it to the Resource Center. On the screen here, you'll see all of your contact folks. I cover New York City and Long Island. My colleague, Danielle Bleacher, she covers kind of the upstate area. And then we also have our curriculum strategist, Megan Felicia, who can support you as well. But we're here to support, and we're looking forward to connecting with you all. Thank you so much for having us.
All right, great. Thank you. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for sharing the resources from Gale with our schools. Thank you all on the screen for participating with us today. Another webinar in the bag. We'll see you again next year. As always, we post today's recording in the Resource Center on our website. A link to access those recordings is dropped in our chat. Please reach out to us if you have any questions about topics to be discussed or interested in having your school present at any one of our monthly webinars next year. Monthly webinars are made possible through the contribution and commitment of our member schools. We appreciate the ability to host these forums for the New York Charter School community. If you are not a member of the association, we encourage you to join today by emailing membership@nycharters.net. Finally, we wish everyone a very happy holidays, and New Year, and we will see you this next time in 2023. Have a great rest of the day, rest of the year, everyone. Take care.